first and foremost, I want to say, like, I see this more less of a I'm sharing my expertise. I think it's more of a sharing session, like in my journey, both as a trainer as well as developing the app. I have learned certain things, and that also layered with what I've learned or gained in my marketing experience. To share it with everyone. And I think I want to, like Jonta say, I want to make this as a discussion, a workshop session. So feel free. I'm quite sure many of you have a lot more experience than I am. So feel free, if you have certain things that you feel like you have a different point of view or to add to it, please feel free to chime in. I want to make this as interactive as possible. And I think this is also kind of the way we engage learners in the new norm, I would say. So let me share my screen quickly. So if you can see, so curiosity, there are two things I want to explore today, which is curiosity and motivation. And rather than sort of looking at, oh, this is the latest tools of what you can do to do activities with your learners, I personally find like these are two very important concepts that if you apply it, you actually find that you will get a very rewarding experience and session with your learners. That is my personal experience. I welcome anyone to challenge it, even because this is part of the research I've done in developing the app as well. So I do welcome if in your extensive training experience you think otherwise or you have a different experience. I am happy to sort of discuss that to hear your point of view. So today's agenda, so introduction. So what I'm going to do as the introduction is an interactive way of doing introduction. I will share that in a while. So during this session, I will also be using two tools that we use together to participate and do things together, so we can see. Again, it'll be happy to see you guys see how you guys use it, because the interesting thing about this sort of tools, while the tool is the same, the activity is the same, I find my class learners actually engage differently. So that's something I find quite interesting as well. Then I want to talk about reframing online training or training in general. I want to talk about sparking curiosity. I want to talk about motivating your learners. And then at the end, we'll be looking at doing a group project together. Any questions so far? Okay, no questions. So I think today I want everyone to walk away, just for us to sort of think through, reflect, what is the approach to help design and conduct effectively online training and drive the best learning outcomes. It's less about delivery. I think traditionally, like there are a lot of times, and sometimes unfortunately in an academic environment, there is a lot of that your success is judged by if you finish the syllabus. I personally find that in the adult learning and in the corporate learning environment, that often is not the most effective way of learning. You do find like a lot of people are there because no choice, HR forced me to come. No choice because my boss sent me. Or no choice because I want to take the brunt. So those are, if you ask me, probably not the most optimum or good reasons for people attending training, but sadly that is the truth in a lot of occasions. Then my question is, how do we help reframe that for yourself as well as the learners? Before we go into all that, I want to do a quick round of introduction. Rather than going through the room, everybody talk about it, I would like to use this tool called Padlet. So I will also, you can use a QR code to show this, but if you're on your desktop, let me send the link. So I think from offline to online, there is reframing that needs to happen. It's not taking the exact same thing and putting it online, or just stand in front of Zoom and deliver things 100% the old way. I think we by now know, but I think I'm preaching to the convert and stating the obvious, but I just want to sort of quickly sort of cover this. So I think how I see it is online becomes more of a knowledge facilitation. I think nowadays we're so used to looking for reading things on our own, looking at finding things online. It is, you can tell yourself they are smart people, they are all professional, they know what they're doing. I mean, obviously, if you're teaching people like sweeping the floor, I think you have to show them. Unfortunately, it's not something you go and read about reading the floor on your own, right? So I think those are things that are different. It's probably still knowledge delivery, and you want to see online how you do that. But I think in general, we can say that most of us are very used to online now, and what you can do is restructure things. So you think of yourself as a facilitator more than a delivery. So how do I facilitate? At the end, you want them to learn the same thing. Is there things I can do to do it differently to facilitate this learning? So you want to ask yourself that question. So trainer used to be, go in, train, you know your role, stand at the podium and you teach. I think when you go online, I find, I used to joke with people, I say I feel like a YouTube star, or I feel like a show host, a stand-up comedian. Nobody talks back. Most of the time, their eye lines are even somewhere else. I don't know if they're listening, but I am here performing. Like it or not, I am a one-person show just going on by myself. So with that, and a lot of people, the old people who used to do a lot of face-to-face, you actually get the energy from people's response. You have the benefit of body language. We've lost all that. So I also have to learn that maybe if I wave my arms around, but if I do that, I probably want to do it around this area. It gives a bit of a visual interest, right? And if you're sharing in slides, it needs to be interesting because no one wants to look at this boring thing. So how do you restructure? So think of yourself like a YouTube content creator. How do I make it interesting and energy? So like a performer, I feel like I'm performing. I up my energy probably at least 50% from I do it in person, for example. So that sort of things, those are things that you need to sort of be aware of. And then attention span drops drastically. So you probably have to switch things up. So you look at, I'll do something, I go, okay, now let's do a face-to-face discussion. Let's switch it back to the slides. And now we do an activity. Now we do a quiz. You want to look at how to break it down so there is a bit of a change every 15, 20 minutes. Or maybe you can stretch it a bit longer if it's a full day course or if it's a 5-day course, but you generally want to break it down for people. Yeah. And then you want to consider blended learning, not blending learning. So blended learning, that means that they can do both synchronous and asynchronous. Read something. Sometimes I take breaks. I say, now this link, this deck, go take 15 minutes, read it. There will be people who are uninterested, then let them be. So people who are interested, they take their time, they read, they come back, you do a bit of a test to make sure they understand the knowledge, and then you go on. So it doesn't have to be everything someone talking at you for the entire time. I think giving people the benefit of doubt, they're all adults and they can take instruction and want to do that. I think that for me is that whole of, you can bring a horse to the water, you can't make it drink, right? So I think that whole, make sure they turn on the camera, make sure they look in the camera, make sure they do that. I personally don't subscribe to that because I say there are a lot of tricks. There are even people, if you see jokes, right, they take a video of themselves and they project it so you think they're there, but they're actually not there. So those are things that people do. People are very creative and very smart these days. So I think I choose to take a slightly different approach to how we do that. So that moves into curiosity. Curiosity puts the brain in a state that allows it to learn and retain any kind of information. If you ask yourself, learning anything, if I'm interested, if I'm curious, I will go and number one, find out information. Number two, I retain better and I'm more interested. So then the question is, how do you instill that in a classroom environment? I think a lot of times people come, they're like, I don't even know why I'm here. I'm an IT person, why am I learning this? Maybe SOP for something else. So I think it's very important you kind of spark that curiosity. Number one, kind of try to spark their curiosity why they should be there, right? So number one, be interesting. and explain to them how that topic is interesting. I mean, I guess even if you're as a trainer, if it's a very boring subject, I guess make some effort of why it can be interesting. So sometimes use that. What I do is find personal stories. So for example, if it's an engineering thing, you can say like, oh, Elon Musk used to be an engineer, and name some super boring thing he does. This person who is now a big time billionaire used to be a game developer. Find that kind of tidbits, start with that. Then they go, oh, wow, really? Or some big time Hollywood star used to sweep the floor as in the beginning. So give them fun tidbits of why this topic could be something bigger, how it can add value to your life, and be interesting, or ask silly questions, or find a funny video about that online and start with that. I think it's that whole spark some curiosity in them, and they go, oh, maybe this is not another boring thing. Encourage questions. So earlier on, you see, when I asked to you guys, I asked some questions and you answer, and I think people, when they participate, also gives them a little bit more interest and hear other people's stories. So like just now, I mean, I hope you hear other people's challenges as a same like peers. It gives you a bit more sort of interest in participating. So encourage questions. I ask people questions. I encourage people to ask me questions. And sometimes I ask the students the learners to answer each other questions, because I guess we all get tired hearing our own voice, right? So make room for the unstructured. That means, like I said earlier, break it down. So it doesn't have to be just me with a slide. And I mean, because this is quite short, there's a bit of to cover, so I don't switch it up as much. But usually like a full day, I do switch it up a bit. Make room for the unstructured. So you can do a question. So sometimes I break it up before I even teach them anything. I said, tell me what you understand as that. And you get sometimes very funny, very good, sometimes even better than your curriculum answer, because sometimes you have a room full of very interesting, very intelligent people. And then create time to consider and reflect. So I do that by sometimes giving them role playing. I say, imagine now you run a business, now you need to do this, how will you do it? Obviously, they don't have 100% answers to do that, but it's quite interesting, even if they get it wrong, because you then use that as a teaching or learning opportunity. So I personally find that sort of these are ways I use to break it up a bit. And I think in online you have to, because there's very little control. Whilst I'm looking at your faces now, I really don't know if you're really maybe chatting with your girlfriend or you're buying stocks and shares online. I have no idea. Your face is there. I can see you're there, but I really don't know what else you're doing. Maybe you are doing something completely different. So I'm going to assume that you are interested and deliver as such, right? So these are some of the tricks I personally find useful. I don't know if any questions or anybody has anything to share around this. I'm sure you guys do, that would add to this. Nobody. The gentleman who runs a training business, I'm sure you have some nuggets to share with us. Thomas, is it? No. Okay, I'm not hearing.
Hi, this is Irina, if you can hear me.
Yes, now I can hear you. Yes, loud and clear.
Hi, this is Irene here. I just have something to say about the video. Like I'm not a very good example because I'm using my home desktop and I truly do not have a camera, and so it's not that I do not want to turn on video. So I feel that most trainer, when they hear the participants saying that I'm not able to turn on video, they think that it's an excuse and is that they do not want to show their face. But because I myself, I do not have a camera, so I tend to take it that probably they really do have some challenges with turning on the video. So I agree with you. I do not feel that just by forcing people to turn on the camera means that they are actually present at the session.
Right. I agree. And sometimes you use different formats. So like I can hear you, from your voice I can see you're engaged. You were clearly following the the conversation and the question, to me, you are engaged. Whereas someone may have the video on, but he's probably like playing stocks and shares or listening to something, playing game. He may be less engaged than you. You are completely right. So unless it's a mandatory by the course developer or the organization, I personally don't think. And sometimes people prefer to type. When I give them, I said, okay, like for example, in this case, I can say, okay, if people who are shy don't want to speak up, you type and you tell me. It's hard. I can't teach and type and read at the same time, but sometimes when I do breaks, I say, yeah, if you have questions, you can also type it. So for example, now I'm looking at what is in the chat, right? So it says that with video switch on may affect internet connection. Yeah, so it's fine. I think that's valid. I don't see your face, but you're participating actively and you are engaging. More than if you turn on your video, you can't hear properly, then to me that's not optimum. Yes, I agree. Still do not do pre-work. People who don't do pre-work, Jake, is that because the course is something they don't need? Is there assessment that you can is there like assessment you can assess them?
It's a discipline basically. It's a course that, like you say, sometimes HR or their boss asks them to attend. That's one of the reasons. But at the end of the day, I fell in the same trap when I was in corporate. People are busy, the operations will always scream now attention.
Yes.
And so training, unfortunately, is always a secondary thing when you get to when you have time. And then they realize, oh, tomorrow is a course. Okay, and I never mind. I wouldn't do my homework, so I wouldn't turn on my camera and all of that.
Yes. So I think that becomes a course strategy, training strategy problem. I really think a lot of corporate, right? They don't think of it. It's almost tick the box. I need everybody SOP or requirement. You have to take the cyber security. So just send. We all randomly pass. We really don't know. You ask me, I also cannot remember anything from the course. We tikam and try to guess the answer, right? So I think if you understand that is the problem, I think it's the company's role to restructure the training. The trainer cannot change that, right? But if you don't put priority and you don't give people time to learn it, and because they can cheat the system, they just tikam until they get it right. So those are things that I think as a strategy, and you find that in the last since COVID, right? Training strategy has gone up in terms of importance because of the disruption. Company realized they have to pivot people. They need to look after people and their welfare and keep them engaged. It's part of leadership. So I think if a company is progressive enough to know that is important, they need to find way to solve it. And it's not it cannot be a trainer's responsibility alone. And you ask yourself KPIs. So I was also, when I was developing my app, you kind of go, how to measure? It used to be when technology is a bit lacking, is really just attendance or assessment. But nowadays, there are a lot more ways to assess people's understanding and learning. So those are things you'll want to explore, especially if you run business, right? Is this the optimal way of learning? So if people come, people are engaged, they go away with 50%, even if they don't turn on the video, rather than someone who turns on video all the time, retain 5%, which is better for your business. So those are things you want to think about broader. Is it the way it's designed? Is it the kind of attention you expect if the person is already working 200% and he needs to spend 30% of his time taking training, that is just not sustainable and not realistic. So it becomes a bigger problem than a trainer problem, right? Yeah. So that's
Sharon here. Sorry,
yes.
I got a question. Because just I talk about training attendance. You face to face, people will find attendance. When you do online, how to show evidence that they have attended the training.
Even if you take Zoom, if you buy the corporate version, it shows you who has sat through, and from the video you can see. So you audit, you look through. If the person is in front, then you can test test them along the way. So it's less about the locking people in the
and then
because
yeah. So the other one is then regarding the tools, like this briefly was suggesting, can't we just use a simple WhatsApp? No, we have a breakout session or WhatsApp. Use your smartphone, do a WhatsApp video chat, do your discussion, then come back to the learning session and.
But sometimes you need to screen share. WhatsApp cannot screen share. So if you only need to discuss, talk, sure. Don't force people to do breakout rooms if they don't want to. You as a designer, you need to design what are they currently using. Forcing people to use the new tool is actually not easy. I mean, I have older learners, even the Padlet, they struggle. So I tell them, don't worry. I say, when it comes to your turn, you speak up, you explain to us. So she's like, okay. Because otherwise she'll panic. She's like, I don't know how to use, and then they sit there and panic. So to me, it's like, then use what is right for them. I say, if not, you type it. So those people who have technical struggle, I tell them, don't worry. I will call your name, you speak up, you explain to us. If not, you type into the chat because they know how to type in the chat. So you need to, as a facilitator, that's why I say we are more facilitators than, so you need to facilitate. How do they learn best as a learner? And I have groups where it's meant to be individual. They are very thoughtful class. They say, oh, but we have some people, their digital skills are very bad, they will struggle. So I say, okay, then let's change it to a group work. But then when you present, each person needs to present so that nobody can get a free ride. So those are things that as a trainer on the go, where obviously where permitted, you need to think how best. So you need to focus on what is the learning outcome rather than this is the format everybody have to do. I don't care if your computer cannot load this software. I don't care. First, you need to find those things out to even effectively deliver. But even as you teach, I find myself, you have to give people other options to be able to participate if it becomes very challenging. So yes, I have done, submit your assessment with a video. You shoot your video on yourself, submit it to me to WhatsApp. That's fine. At least I know you've done it. So those are different formats that you can employ. And yes, use the simplest technology where possible. Okay.
Just a word of caution tip here. If you, I tried the WhatsApp way, which is sometimes Zoom for whatever reason, and I try and preempt it by saying, get prepared for this even before you come. And what I've realized is I've got pushback from clients because of privacy issues.
Yes.
One is when they're overseas, they already have that privacy issue. Two,
yes.
In Singapore, I try that also and say, I can't release a number. So you try and pre-group them. You got this PDPA thing. So just a word of caution.
Correct.
Those things need to be well planned for, and you need permission. So it's a whole ball game altogether.
Correct. So when you design your courses, you need to check all these. So it's one of those things. So for example, if I teach like SGUS courses, I just say, there is audit, there's processes in place. I'm happy to do one-on-one in the breakout room to teach you how to use the tool, but I can't let you use, like I don't reveal my phone number to students, right? So those are things that you need to consider. But I guess where there are no such issues, then use tools that are familiar with your,
If I can have an appeal to this cohort here, and then those of us who are in the position, I've had clients who say, even in the tender spec sometimes, design a synchronous classroom, but at any time be prepared to go virtual with it. And I think that kind of statement, that kind of comment just really displays the ignorance of what it takes to design and then to deliver and facilitate an online. It is way harder. Way more resources are needed, way more planning needed, and so on and so forth. So, if you ever get a comment like that, or you have a boss who says, let's just put that into the specs.
Take the PowerPoint, just upload the PowerPoint, they just read.
Yeah, just facilitate online, that's it. And then it's way cheaper because, after all, you got to come to the class. It's a totally different ballgame.
Yes. So to me, it shows the ignorance. Then you ask yourself, is that the client I want to work with? Then be very clear what success looks like, right? Then if they say just want to come and tick the box, sure, you can do that. Hire some facilitators, done. But then you know that you're not delivering the optimum, and then you ask yourself, is that, if it's bread and butter, you just want to do it because it's business, and then you do it, but be very clear, set what the success metrics are against those. And there are people who tell me, we are on Zoom, so we got e-learning. So people like that, you kind of go, okay. And they don't have measurement of success metrics, right? They don't even know their training strategy. What are you trying to drive? Oh, must do diversity. So we do one workshop on diversity, done. So those are things that it's a much bigger discussion than what we're doing here, but those are challenges and also opportunities for people who are more savvy. Okay, so I think we've considered this. For curiosity, try to spark their curiosity, and those are some tricks. Obviously, I'm just very touch and go here, right? It's not, I can't go into depth of what we're doing, and also I want to spend more time, you guys, of discussing. So the next thing we want to touch on is motivation. So this is a deeper, so this myself, I think even before I joined training, I say, people need to be motivated. How many corporates are the worst? I think we are the most guilty of that. You go to courses because no choice, because I need my promotion, I need to attend this, because it's a SOP, because it's a, so we all end up taking all these courses that we are not even present. We tick the box, do the assessment, and be done with it. I think when people learn, motivation becomes a very big part of it, right? And how do you drive that motivation? And I think even pulling back, I find that Singaporeans are not well, maybe it's a very politically incorrect statement. They feel like learning is a means to an end, and it's usually there is a reward tied to it. They don't see it as I think recently, obviously, there's a whole lifelong learning. We all need to learn because the world is changing, the ever changing. I mean, many of you maybe are like admin people, engineers, or whatever discipline we started at, right? When we first went to school, look at how much that disruption and change the industry has gone through, right? And that is going to be accelerated. So I think the ever learning, online, lifelong learning is a survival now. It's not even a good to have. It used to be, I upskill myself so maybe I can get the promotion. I think now if you don't upskill yourself constantly, you're gonna not be employed or not even find a job. So I think that those are reality. And I think unfortunately we're not conditioned that way. I think number one, I try to explain, especially when I teach all those SGUS, WSQ, where people are trying to pivot. I say, well, the internet is out there. I am giving you the tip of the iceberg. If you're interested, you can go and read up and you can learn so much more. So I really don't think excuse of I don't know how to find information is not out there is just showing lack of motivation or interest. So it's a very lame excuse, and I'll be very candid in saying that. So I think I usually sort of put it out there. I think that's something you want to also, I guess, instill, especially if you're in a professional training field, right? We can only teach this amount, whether it's a 5 days, whether it's a 5 months course or whatever, it's still limited. And I think it's giving, I always tell people, it's giving people like teach them how to fish, right? You don't know what you don't know. So now I give you a bit of what you need to know. You need to go and find out what else you can know to serve yourself, your goals. And then obviously, I don't know what your goals are. Are you trying to get a pay increase? You're trying to be a better person. You're trying to pass time. Obviously, the person who comes and pass time, I mean, even SGUS, there are people who come and pass time. The people who pass time, the motivation is very different for people who wants to find a new job. People who are running their business and their business is struggling and they need this to turn their business around. It's all very different. And I'm not going to go into each one of you, but you guys, each of you need to be clear what the motivation is, right? The people who are here for entertainment, yeah, as long as you get entertained, good for you. But there are other people who are here for other things, and people need to be clear and they need to seek knowledge and take ownership of how they learn and where they find that learning is also important. So with that, let's go into this. So this is something you all can read more. There are many different versions of that Malcolm Knowles principle, right? So there are basically 6 things 2, 4, 6. Cannot count. Sorry, 3 is 2 times 3. That's why. So the first one is need to know. First, you provide the why, and I do that kind of quite early on in the course. So you said, for example, very boring technical. There must be a reason why they need to be there. Either it's a safety issue, is it a job, career advancing need? Is it it gives them an advantage? Sometimes even social, like gives them social currency within the organization to talk to senior management and whatever, right? So I think trying to help them frame the why, give them example. So yes, you may be a junior person now who only push paper and do admin, but when you become the CEO, you need these skills. Why? I mean, maybe a bit of a leap. I mean, because I don't know technically how certain things plug in, but I think it's sort of giving them a bit of a roadmap of given that skills, what can they do? Because I think a lot of time we just like, oh, this is SEO, but you don't tell them what it does. You just say, today we're going to learn SEO. Why? I guess the first question is asked, why? No need lah. Like I do admin, why I need to know SEO? Like for example, I always tell people, no matter what your roles are now, you need to know P&L. I mean, I think nowadays, I tell my daughter that you need to understand P&L in whatever roles you do now. And I think that's very clear. And I think it's just help them join the dots, why they need to do it. And it sort of helps them, motivate them a bit of understanding why they're there and maybe why they should turn off their K-drama and pay attention, right? So those are things that, like I said, we cannot achieve 100%. You can at least give them a bit of a tool to do that. Self-concept, the concept of people choose what they learn, how they learn, and all that. So I think they want to give a sense there's a choice. So I think rather than force, right, turn on your video, you must do this. I don't like to teach that way. I mean, sometimes certain curriculum, I'm forced to do that. I do it, but that's not how I like to teach. I always tell people you have a choice. If this is not right for you, then let's discuss and then let me talk to the program manager. I'll come back if you feel that that's a better way of doing it. Obviously give people a timeline, like set it up if you feel that there are potentially some ways that they will not welcome, or give them options. Like there are times where I open up breakout rooms. I say, for those people who feel very strongly you want to do it as alone, you can do so, especially if it's just a discussion, right? Some people are very antisocial. They say, I like to, or maybe sometimes they have a very strong project. They're here with their business project they want to do on their own. I often don't force it. If it makes sense, and I say, yeah, if you want to share it with me, if you don't want to show it as a group, send it to me, I'll look at it, and during the break I'm happy to do a one-on-one and we can go through it. So I think I try where possible, where bandwidth permits, I give them some level of choice. And sometimes you may not have any choice, but so far I have not attended any course where I feel I have zero choice. Sometimes you look at the group, they don't like to do group projects. Then it's fine. Then after 1 or 2, especially if it's a 4-day course, towards the end, I just do individual projects because you find that they prefer to do that and they learn better that way. And that's totally fine. Unless there's a group project requirement and we do that. Build on the expertise. So like earlier on, I sort of get a sense of what your experiences are, because I feel like you speak to people's experience, they feel like you're topping up to the experience, they feel more motivated. They go, you understand. It's a whole empathy thing as well, right? You know my experience, you're giving me value to add on to my experience to help me succeed in whatever that could be. Readiness and relevance need to be relevant. So how does this knowledge immediately apply to my job or my life? So it could be money management. A lot of people say, oh, I'm an engineer, I don't need to know about money management. Well, I guess if you're the head of whatever, you need to know P&L, you need to know numbers. Or if not, give them scenarios, especially if you have designed it and you know why they need it. Give them in their sort of more layman way, or from their perspective, why they need it. When you link that dot with that relevance and how they can immediately apply it, it will give them more motivation to learn and pay attention. Problem-centered. State problems that they will face. So earlier on, you see during the introduction, I asked you what your pain points are. And as I go through, I try to solve some of that. I think that's important, because if they come and take this course and you can't even solve the pain points they have, what value are you adding? You need to ask yourself as a trainer, right? So I think it's important that you solve, even if it's very little, like, oh, communication. I'm an engineer, I don't need to know communication. I don't do presentation to big groups and all that. But maybe they have to. If they are coming out with a disruptive program, they need to go and share it with the manager, or maybe they need to present to the salespeople or the product people or whatever it may be. So there is definitely a value of why that course. If not, if there's zero value, then you maybe need to talk to the L&D department and say, why we have this course? You're wasting company's money. With 50 people sitting in this class for 2 hours. Why are we doing that? Right? Obviously, if it's like mandatory, no choice. But beyond that, and even mandatory, there must be a reason why, right? So, and maybe help them say, yeah, you sit through, it may not interest you, but please remember at least these 5 things you need to know. So help them, at least things they need to know, what is absolutely necessary. Help them at least learn what they need to know. Even if the program is maybe not most effectively structured, help them. Intrinsic motivation, overall, I said before, they want to learn because learning is good for them in so many different ways. Those are a bigger picture thing. I guess if you're a training institution, you are a L&D team lead, or you are a boss, a manager, you can motivate them, because I think this day and age, learning is no longer a luxury. You need to upgrade yourself, you need to be in touch, and those are things that they need to know. So I think I've provided some of this, so as I walk through, but in case I missed anything, so yeah, provide them the reasons of how the skill can benefit them, help them get ahead, why they cannot afford not to know, build on the experience, understand the experience, frame your training as a top-up, self-concept, give them a choice where possible, and best when linked to 4. So 4 is frame the content activity so learners can apply back to their work or life immediately. Problem-centered, help learners identify a problem they will solve with the training. Maybe not see it, sometimes it may be very obvious to you because you've been doing it for 20 years. To a learner, especially sometimes a junior person, they may not see the linkage. Helping them link helps them and help you. Intrinsic motivation, something makes them feel better about themselves, or will give them more opportunity to grow professionally. So you kind of tell them why they should be motivated. So those are things. Any questions? Anything? Anybody? I'm sure many of you have things to add to this with your experience that are here in the audience. Anybody wants to chime in or add to this? I would love to learn from you guys as well. Anybody use that, or to success or failure, or why you think cannot work because the learner's not like that? Those people with challenges, anything to share?
Jackie, just now someone on the chat that you mentioned about WhatsApp, using WhatsApp for some of the learners, right? So maybe you can just share about how do you use WhatsApp and applying this Malcolm knowledge, knows principles as well.
Wow.
Anything you look out for, or anything that
this one is very conceptual, so
or maybe just share about how do you use WhatsApp.
Yeah, so WhatsApp is probably more engagement. So for example, I used to teach how to create content when this whole online happens, right? So how do people train online or present online? So I asked them to go on so I was teaching skills, sort of how to have energy, how to whatever. So rather than say, okay, now prepare, come online, they say they prefer, so you can actually have discussion. So we can have a group. So sometimes that is my second screen. So in this case, like currently my second screen is the chat, right? So some people prefer to do second screen as WhatsApp. So because also, you know why? WhatsApp, you can add photos. Unfortunately, this chat here, oh, you can, right? Add files. But most people find it quite hard to add files here. So when they want to send photos, they find it quicker to do WhatsApp. And also because sometimes they already have a group set up. So they share it there, is more intuitive to them. So, or you can say like, name me five things you can do. Then you say, yeah, share it on WhatsApp rather than here. I mean, it's really, I guess, if anything, an equivalent of a chat. And sometimes because there are different groups, so they may find, for example, when people go to breakout room, a lot of them, they use WhatsApp as a second chat because there is not a breakout room chat, right? They will have to chat to the main group, to everybody. So they will have a separate WhatsApp group. Let me think, what else? Voice also, so they can record voice and they send. What else? Let me think how else I use WhatsApp. If anything, the advantage is just it feels more intuitive to them, and so they prefer it. I don't think there's anything superior to WhatsApp. So I guess the point I was saying about WhatsApp is more of what is intuitive to them. So maybe you have a company, if this is a company's training, and then you all have internal chat in your office system, use that as your second channel. It's fine. Regarding on sweeping, oh, hang on, what am I trying to say? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, good. Thanks for clarifying. Because someone was okay. Okay. So we'll try not to say training how to sweep the floor. Yeah, we can say that training environmental service modules, training on environmental hygiene and cleanliness. The words we use during training can be part of motivation. There you go. So elevate. So you can also elevate what they learn, right? So rather than say sweep the floor, you can say you are actually very important, especially I think in times of hygiene and all that, it's very important you do your job right, because as part of the hygiene quota or we are the most it's part of the hygiene requirement, for example. So you kind of elevate people to how they do it important. For example, even admin or data entry, when they do their job accurately, they check it properly with the system you provide them, your data science become a lot more accurate and better quality. So those are things, yes, you're right. Thank you, Amy, for sharing. You can elevate their role to explain how in the bigger picture, whilst they may not see in their role, how that ladders up to something quite important. So yes, thank you. So I don't know if I answered the WhatsApp, because I think it's very hard. WhatsApp in itself is not a motivational tool. It just reduces the digital barrier. And if that helps the activities and the engagement, do consider it. Obviously, if privacy is not an issue.
Okay, Jackie, if I may add.
Yeah, sure.
One of the things that you may want to consider is that you can do a screenshot of the WhatsApp, because WhatsApp has a desktop version. And then what you can do is you can post it so people can see.
Yeah, okay.
So that would be one of the considerations if they are inhibited in some way and they don't use it. So you just have a screen like this. Yeah, you have your slides.
Yes.
So what happens is you can just cut and paste here. The other way is to have a special tab that would allow you to see the WhatsApp live, and then you just show screen. But then the problem here is sometimes they don't want other things to be seen.
Yes, because sometimes I'm very worried when I end up showing, because my other people, my children send me things, and I don't need people to know. Your boss send you an update that other people shouldn't know. So those are very real privacy and issues, right? Yeah. So
the other thing you may want to consider is you have a website supporting your training. So when you have a website supporting your training, you can easily post the discussion into the website itself. That is, you must have control of the website and you can update straight away.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I do.
Okay. Yes. So there you go. So there are like sort of tools that you can set up properly to counter all these like privacy issues and all that. But I think having explored sort of like edutech and all that, don't put tech just because looking at the functionality. You also need to look at the base, the profiles, the learner's profile. Do they have the right tools? Do they have the right skills? Is that something they'll be comfortable in? If your work already have 25 tools, do you want to introduce yet another tool for them to learn? Is that something that can incorporate into your other tools that are already existing and they already are comfortable using? So those are also consideration. Or maybe when you choose, pick something that's similar to something they're already familiar with, because then the learning curve is not as steep as well. Any other questions or discussion, burning, sharing?
Yes, I've got, because just now you mentioned you have training material face-to-face, then you just convert the PowerPoint to a virtual and then you start to do training. But what sort of tips would you give how to convert the face-to-face training materials into the interesting online training?
Well, there are a lot of methods you can use, right? I mean, if you Google training methods, there are tons of them. So think about how you can convert them to encourage participation. So for example, maybe you have a case study you want to share there. So what you can do is, instead of just showing that PowerPoint, you can slide. So for example, later on you all will do activity, you'll see. So I'll pose that question to ask people to attempt to solve that problem first. So they go in groups, and I think people actually enjoy that. If they are like, they like their colleagues actually, or they like their fellow, they like to be able to discuss. And you will find that in my learning, sometimes you can teach for one whole day, you give them a case study, they have not understood what you taught them, which is a bit shocking for me, but it happens. So you might want to chunk it down. So sometimes when, let's say for example, right, I teach 5 points, by the third point I may stop and I say, okay, now brainstorm and give me examples of that. And then you feel that, and sometimes I've gone through classes where they've gone completely off tangent. So you go, oh God, they didn't even understand what I explained to them. And then the other class who got it 100%, and they give you, so a very good example. So those are things that you can look at doing, like instead of just going through all this, right? You can stop and have discussion and use those as opportunity to explain versus just delivering. Especially if it's a audience you're familiar with, pick someone who already has experience, or or their job is in that area, get them to give examples. So like peer learning. Makeup quiz. So even like Zoom, they have polls and quiz. Polls are good fun if you have time, when time is not a pressure. So how many of you have done whatever, and just get them to do something. Sometimes it's just breaking it up. Yeah. Does that help? Okay.
Yeah, I just need to test, because I'm right now converting. Sorry. Give me a minute. Right now I'm converting the face-to-face training materials and doing the virtual online. So I'm still designing how to incorporate activities or the case study, because the previous case study that I used for face-to-face may not be able to do it when I do the virtual. You may have to
redesign them, right? Yes.
Yes, so, correct.
So I can show you all this. We can discuss using this case. So for example, the next activity we're doing it. You're doing as a group, how we can do an activity together. Okay, welcome back everyone. Hope you all enjoyed that. It was quite funny to watch in the beginning where people are like scrambling around. But this is a good tool for, it feels almost like you're in a room having group discussions. Yes, so I guess I just want to keep this kind of, I guess, fairly open. So any group wants to start first, and then the rest you all can chime in, and if you have similar ideas, just keep it kind of quite open for the last 15 minutes, and then we can also see if we come up with new ideas as we go through this point of the discussion. Anyone wants to go first? Otherwise, I'll ask Jonta to pick. I hate picking groups.
I'll just nominate group 2. So, because the time is only 15 minutes left. Yeah, group 2, please. I saved Jackie from the pain of like.
I know.
Group 2,
you know,
please.
sometimes I use, I don't know if you also used before, this lucky draw wheel. Yeah. So actually quite fun, because then, especially if they look very serious, right? Then I'll use the wheel. Then I say, okay, it's not me. The wheel pick number group 2. Group 2, let me screen share group 2, and then the group 2 can share with us.
Okay, so I think for group 2, this is what we have pasted and posted there. So what we think is, for the curiosities wise, that perhaps we have come out with quizzes for understanding the engineer themselves, or maybe other people. You know, sometimes being asked, we may not understand ourselves that well. So and this is also a kind of way that to make them think that, am I suitable to become a leader, or and then what's going to be happen to me if I'm going to attend this leadership training. So we have said that after the quiz, to rate their skill and understanding for non-verbal cue. So in that sense, that's for after the quizzes wise, it's also help the facilitators to know that what's the level of this group of learner in order to customize the facilitation technique as to suit their level, as well as what we know is the learner's need. And for motivations, we have 2. One is list some interesting creation related to engineering, maybe also by well-known persona. All right, that's one point. And the other point is to link the principles of engineering to the principles of leadership.
That's a good point. Yeah. So sometimes you draw that parallel for them, right? Then they kind of go, oh yeah, actually it's like engineering, because you're speaking the language they understand. So they go, okay, maybe quite fun, because they are wired to enjoy engineering topics. Okay.
And what we think is for this is also help to minimize the hazard, because being as an engineer, all right, I myself also an engineer before, study training, go for training is always very tiring. So something is to make them think that, hey, in actual fact, that to learn the principle of leadership is not that difficult. It actually can relay back to their engineering background as well. So it also helps to minimize too much effort for them to pick up a new points and so forth. And that's what I
it's
thought of.
The relevance, right? So
yes, the relevance.
Actually it's quite similar. So it's like, once you make that, it's almost do the dotted line for them too, because I think a lot of times we go, especially corporate training, you go with the mindset of nothing to do with why they send me to this thing. It's you already shut down before you even. So I think it's opening that door with a bit of window, draw a dotted line for them to even help them understand, like, oh, okay, actually we should maybe pay a bit of attention, and if you're interesting enough and all that, it will actually help their learning journey.
That's right. So because of knowing that part, and that's also come to the other points that we mentioned in motivation, which is ask each of them to talk about what do they expect on leadership related to engineering. So I can foresee that with these motivations is running in a circle, but having said that, is also able to build upwards on the content itself.
Yes.
For the learners.
Yes, for sure. Okay, thank you. Anyone else has anything to add to this from Good 2? Okay, no, then we can move on to the next group. John, who's next?
Group 3, please.
Group 3. Who's from Group 3? All shy, is it?
Where's all my members?
Okay, you can kickstart first, then they can join you.
Actually, they type more than me.
So the type people don't like to talk.
Curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Never mind. So curiosity, I think, like ask challenges. We have to show that we are interested in their challenges or their concern, and then that hopefully will start their curiosity to think, yeah, this is my concern, or it should be somebody else's concern. Then I'm curious how other people will address that, or use my connection no good today.
So
Can you hear?
Yeah. So for example, your point,
Then
right?
got storytelling. Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to jump in and basically said, so you ask themselves, like for example, we all have
yes,
leaders, right?
Sure.
So you can ask things like, oh, what do you find, what is a good leader, and what happens, have you encountered bad leaders, and what happens when you have a bad leader? So already it also helped them connect, right? Like, oh yeah, actually then next time if I become a leader, or if I know the right skills, I can manage people accordingly in the right way in the future. So even if just sort of like it's a case of drawing sort of like a dotted line, because we all have managers and supervisors and all that, right? So I think them knowing that skills and maybe even although they are very junior, let's say if you are training a very junior group, you can talk about when you become a leader, or maybe when you talk about how you learn leadership skills, it also help them, give them tools also how to communicate with their leaders. Yeah, so that sort of thing also help them. So something that they can apply immediately. Yeah. Okay, what else? Where are your members? Who are the other people?
Anybody else wants to take over? Where's the rest?
Okay, group 3, where's Jay, M. Tan?
Actually,
my today my internet connection is very poor.
Actually, we have not much to say because 3/4 of the time we were just figuring out how to do this thing, and where to get a post-it note, what to type, and then we have a wandering fish going around and around, and we only mentioned 1 or 2 things, and then the rest of it was just pasting out, and we didn't really discuss.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you should have called me. Sorry, my bad. I thought because I put some post-it notes, I thought you guys would.
Yeah, we were asking questions like, how do you do this? Where do you go? How do you move the screen? Hey, how come the screen disappeared? Hey, where's the post-it note? Hey, wait. We just technical.
Oh, okay, but you all did quite well. You got a lot of post-it notes. So yeah, so maybe we all discuss together. So you said talk about showing interest in participant concerns. I think that's a given. Gamification. So do you play a game? Is it a digital game, or is it like a...
I don't know. Who put that there?
Who put that?
Not me. But okay lah. So I think we digress a bit instead of discussing. So if let's say you have participants that they key this, and then nobody wants to own up because you don't have a names showing who key this in, and like you say lah, like now our group nobody wants to talk. So how as a trainer we can pick
then I take over
how to motivate them?
No, then it's fine. Okay. I don't like forcing people, because some people they can type or they're shy to talk. Then to me, don't force unless it's a requirement. Of course, if this is an assessment, then you have to make that very clear. This is an assessment. Besides typing, you're also graded by presentation. So you need to make that very clear. So in this case, to me, we are just learning. So it's fine. Then I take over. Then I can give examples. So I say gamification. It could be you give out a survey or a poll. You basically said how many of y'all have encountered bad leaders or funny leaders or whatever. Just give something. People just participate, and then using that you can call them out and ask them to give their examples. So motivation, you can ask them how they apply principle learned. But I think this is less about that. So when we talk about, you want to connect it to how they can apply immediately. Yes. Not, you can ask them, how do you think you can apply? And then you can give them the answer. So it's almost like helping them join the dots, right? And then show, positive examples, interviews. So people who are engineers, successful engineers who has gone and become leaders. Why that is, because then they see themselves like, oh, one day I can be like the person. So these are good ways to show motivation. Choice of words, so using terms that they understand. Earlier on, the team also said it, right? Use words that like draw that parallel. How leadership is like engineering, and sometimes you make a joke out of it, right? So you say like, oh, you need to put the SOP in place. Ha ha ha. So those are things that you help them join the dots and maybe make light of it and engage them. Encourage participation, put yourself in their shoes. Yeah, those are good. So you basically go, especially if you were in their position, you can say, when I was first started, I have this very good boss, or I have this very bad boss. And then you give examples, and then you can say how I wish I have learned that. Maybe now you're in senior management, you say, I wish someone has taught me this course. And then they go, wow, even the boss last time don't know how, right? So those are things that you can give examples to help them connect the dots. What is vote for Amy the Wandering Fish? Okay, that one I cannot help you explain because I don't understand. Give the seniors airtime to share. Who wrote this? And yes, sometimes, for example, if the senior person are more, I guess seniors in this case is like a senior leader, right? So call them in to share their stories. So those are good motivation, because immediately they can say, oh, this is how it will be important to me because I want to be like this person. Relate case studies to engineer technical issues. So I think you all have all given very good examples and quite similar. The last team, group 1. Who is in that group? Group 1, we have Ernest, Albert, Irene, Joanne, MJW.
I think we have similar pointers as well.
Okay.
I think we talk about starting to find out, to understand the why the first, and the other thing is about what's in it for them.
Yeah.
To be leadership position. Yeah. To get them to be interested first. Yeah. And I think there's another thing. Input is about how can we all get there from the why and the what and the how is to help them see how the journey will be like, yes. And with that curiosity built out there, I think that's where motivation will come in and sustain effort. And we also talk about sharing success stories of engineers who actually became great leaders. So they can actually be at least looking upon, if it's possible for someone, so maybe you also can do it. But we also understand engineers sometimes do want to have their own, to be technical expertise in their own area. So maybe that is not so motivating to be leaders per se. So you probably have to address if that is their priority before even they come into the classroom and talk with you. Yeah. And also share what they expect, they themselves, get them to share what they expect of a leader. Correct. So that they can actually learn better.
Yes. So I think just weaving these, right? And sometimes they don't have to be very heavy-handed, but just help them join the dots a bit to help to spark the curiosity, motivate them a bit better. So rather than I have no choice, I'm here in this unrelated subject that I don't know, I got so many other work I can't even finish, and now I have to sit here and listen to this. It's just giving them the additional reason and motivation to actually attend the course. And I think that in itself will pay very rewarding to help them achieve the learning outcome, as well as you as a trainer to feel more fulfilling in terms of a more engaged audience. So that's all from me, and I hope you all enjoy and pick up a couple of tips, and thank you for sharing all your wonderful experience, and with me as well. Definitely learn a few things today to continue in my own trainers and courseware developing experience.